I'm Jessica Anne Pressler, and you've tuned into Your Traitor Within, a podcast that exposes the brutal truths of healing, self-discovery, and breaking free from relentless patterns of self-sabotage. I am honored to have you here today on The Traitor Within.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, what I love about your work, and we spent a couple hours talking even before this, and I love about you, is empowerment, first of all, that it's not just about, what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that. It's about self-empowerment. And you do it through psychoeducation, and which I see your videos. I love your videos. And what you do, I'm sure, one-on-one or one-on-many in your office. And of course helping them through their own journey,
Yes,
in
yes.
regard to that particular session, So today I am saying ahead of time, thank you so much for sharing your Traitor Within story, because that's part of what we're doing. And then the other piece is I want to hear about what you do and how what you do works with the Traitor Within, because we definitely found that connection when we spoke earlier.
Yes, absolutely. So the trader within what I do, I'm new to this world, so this is the first time I'm doing it, and I'm very nervous, and I feel like my trader is showing up, but you
Ah.
can't see it because it's masked, and that's my trader.
Hmm.
um, One of the reasons why I love what I do is because I have to embody it, because I'm also a human living a human experience and having to walk the walk too. Face the things. This is one of them. Right now I'm so nervous. I'm like, and I can feel the the body when it's nervous, right? Everyone's body shows up
Hmm.
differently. And then I have to really challenge myself, and all that happens in here live as we're doing this. And part of my education is exposing myself to speaking my truth, but also from my own clinical lens. And in a world like today, with the echo chambers and the gotcha culture and the noise of just being online, it's very easy to get the validation from the videos that we see and see ourselves in that, but it's a lot harder to see ourselves and what we're constantly pointing at others.
Hmm.
And I want my work is really about taking that finger and pointing it this
Hmm.
way. And I think for me, I a lot of my premises don't pedestal me, because I'm with you.
Hmm.
What you see in me, what I see in you, we have that in each other, right? I've been there probably at one point or another. So I love this work just because I think it really pushes me to have to face the discomfort through teaching.
Hmm.
And in a way, it's a little bit selfish, because through my teaching, I instill it in my own subconscious. So
Hmm.
then I learn more, and then I can expand.
Yeah, I understand that well, because I feel the same way about what I do as well.
Yeah,
But
I love this work. So it's nice to have a clinician and talk to a
hmm
clinician.
I felt that when we first met,
Yes,
that
yeah.
it's nice to have that exchange.
Mhm.
But it is very rewarding what we do as we help others and we learn. I mean, had an interview recently, and they asked me, where do I get my knowledge? And while I said there are a lot of professionals, obviously I get my knowledge from other professionals and readings and you know, but I also get my education from listening to others. And listening is so vital. It's when you don't listen, you don't learn. If you only hear your own voice. So the echo chamber, yes, is also on social media, but it's also in your own head. And you need to be able, I believe, to listen to others, to always listen. You don't have to like what you hear, but how else do you
Absolutely.
learn if you're not open?
Absolutely. I'm gonna write stuff down too, because I have a squirrel brain and I'll forget if I don't. The professionals and the in your own head part.
Hmm.
I find this as somebody, I'll kind of jump into my trader within, because I think my trader within has left me with a superpower. When I work with kids and youth, I call it a superpower,
Hmm.
but it's the ability to kind of be hyper vigilant, but you scan and you can read the room and you can read the nonverbals and the
Mm-hmm.
undercurrents of that people are giving off of what they are not saying or speaking on or masking.
Mm-hmm.
The in your own head stuff with online, I'm noticing this too. We're surfing the waves of our own internal critics that are all being projected in the comment sections of the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe that the impact of that is creating a lot of people who silence and suppress themselves and their voice. I
Mm-hmm.
was once that person, the people
Mm-hmm.
pleaser, the over accommodator, the over functioner. If I kept the peace, I was safe. But if you have to keep the
Mm-hmm.
peace, there's no peace.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, being a people pleaser for so long, you end up training people how to treat you. And you
Yes.
end up conditioning people to expect a specific, oh, well, she's so unproblematic. She's just not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually you end up becoming resentful because what you're thinking and what you're speaking is not in alignment. It's not pure. You're suppressing it, or you're thinking something versus what you're saying. And I believe that that's an undercurrent and it can be felt.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, in terms of that traitor, sometimes I'll notice and I'll see it in my clients. I can feel it in my body. And what I love about the empowerment work of listening to others, hearing their stories, seeing that, wow, they can face their fears, they can face
Mm-hmm.
the limiting beliefs, their traitor, they can face that head on through the discomfort and still
Mm-hmm.
do it anyways,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even when you want to scream and you're just, I don't want to do this,
Mm-hmm.
or you could easily flip a table on somebody and you choose not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with like learning information, with what you said, how do I learn information? Reading the books, listening to other people talk, you get a buffet line of nuanced perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
especially sitting with those that I don't agree with,
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
then I feel like I become a lot closer to my own truth, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense,
Absolutely makes sense.
right? Because
Yeah.
if I'm sitting in front of discomfort and that discomfort comes with the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we believe differently, or you think this way and I maybe disagree. I can sit in that
Mm-hmm.
discomfort knowing that whatever that somatic sensation, the filtration systems telling my amygdala, telling me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going into the hippocampus archives and I'm pulling
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff and
Right.
I'm making meaning of what I think that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
that that ends up going nowhere. You're not in that present moment. You're not listening
Mm-hmm.
to their truth for
Mm-hmm.
why they are believing what they are choosing to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Let me give you an example. I know for me, I know for some clients, politics is a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel safe to disclose who you voted for anymore,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you
Mm-hmm.
voted,
Right.
right? That's unfortunate.
Yes, of course.
Because then if we can't have the simple conversations
Right.
of who we voted for,
Mm-hmm.
how are y'all going to have the more difficult conversations of my beliefs and your beliefs are not
Mm-hmm.
aligning? I don't necessarily think we could be parents.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Yeah.
you feel about a prenup? Like,
Right. No, but
how
you're
are
right.
we?
People are very
Sorry.
guarded.
Yeah.
People are scared to, and as you know, in any relationship, if it's friendship or romantic or whatever, intimacy, that closeness is part of being able to be vulnerable and to be able to express your inner thoughts.
Yeah.
And
And
mhm,
I worry how the political arena is handicapping our, and maybe someone's going to say that's not the correct word to use because that's the world that we live in now. We're too busy focusing on you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't this. Okay, do you do that with your own habits and behaviors? Do you
mhm,
do that with yourself and
mhm,
what you see in the mirror, right?
mhm,
We limit ourselves and our own abilities when we polarity everything. And I think in itself, that is activating our own internal traders within. So
mhm,
for me, growing up in an abusive environment, it was more so emotionally abusive.
mhm,
stealing food. And I want to just take a moment and pause for a second because I've never really shared my story online.
Hmm.
I'm very protective of that
Hmm.
only because I don't believe in the shaming of the parents,
Hmm.
right? We
Yeah.
have a parental wound, but we can't keep shaming the parents for
No, and they had a traitor within too. And so
absolutely.
we have as we have compassion for our own traitor, I hope, we would have compassion for them as well. And but part of knowing about your childhood, knowing about your relationships is for understanding. It's for
Absolutely.
understanding and healing. It's not necessary. I mean, if you feel anger, I'm not telling people not to feel what they feel. They should go through whatever and deal with their feelings. But it's not about blame. It's about learning. And you're learning so that you can do better for yourself, and then you can do better for future generations if you have future generations. So you're not having intergenerational trauma. You're not passing it along. So, but at least it's for you. And so it's not about blame. It's not about, it's
Yeah,
learning.
definitely not about blame. If anything, as a child, I was a very old soul, very young. I think
Mhm.
that just kind of happens when you're growing up in emotional
Mhm.
volatile environments
Mhm.
because when the adults are swinging their pendulums of their moods,
The adult is not adulting. So that's a good
exactly,
word. So you
absolutely.
have to be the adult.
Yeah, and so then I end up developing this, I call it spidey senses, but in a way it's a blessing and a curse because I feel like this gave me the traitor within, but it gave me these skills that I truly believe is why I'm a good therapist
Hmm.
and I can build rapport with clients.
Hmm.
It also puts you in a baseline for functioning that
Hmm.
is very overwhelming, overstimulating, exhausting,
Hmm.
and it can self-sabotage you, right? Because
Right.
then you're scanning people for safety everywhere.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
um, I think by growing up in that environment, it developed me into a people pleaser. And I honestly feel like the people pleaser is what created a part of that traitor within, because then
Hmm.
I ended up sabotaging my own self,
Hmm.
attracting partners that were just mirrors of what I grew up in so that I can
Hmm.
recreate that dynamic all over again,
Hmm.
try to conquer it, right? Chasing people, things, whatever.
Hmm.
And then learning how to outgrow that people pleaser schema.
Hmm.
And that comes with grief, that comes with
Yes.
all types of ache.
And that's an important piece, the grieving part, because it's not
Absolutely.
so simple. It's not like, okay, now you know your trader, it's all done. There's a grief process. It's part of who you are. And
Yes.
it was a beautiful part of who you are. And it came with good intentions. And it's here with good intentions. It just doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, if you think about it, I don't know about for you, but at least for me, I think everyone talks about the inner child. I can't wait to talk about the inner teen because my inner teen is just
Mm.
angry and
Mhm.
wants to flip a table, wants to just F you all, right?
Mhm.
Because my survival adaptation as the overfunctioner, the one that masked, the one that appeared all together, seemed
Mhm.
fine, went to
Mhm.
academics, did well there. I did well in academics because that's what kept me safe,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah.
Now I'm an adult and I'm my own business person and I have to figure out how to show up for myself instead of somebody else's business.
Mhm. How does
It
it feel?
it is so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I'm struggling. All these ADHD symptoms showing up, overstimulation, wanting it to be perfect, trying to
Mhm.
perfectify it, and then the perfectifying it causes you to freeze and not do
Mhm.
it, and you're worried. I think for me, my how do I say this? My above average could easily
Mhm.
be someone's half ass.
Mhm. I understand. I
And
understand.
that's so exhausting.
Right. And how do you feel when you say that, though, for you?
I've had to tell myself multiple times I think it's time to less is more it
Hmm.
and then sit in the cognitive dissonance that shows up thinking that that less is not going to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, I think, is a metaphor for showing up in relationships, being in my
Mm-hmm.
marriage, learning how to be in a healthy relationship with a partner,
Mm-hmm.
also learning how to be in a healthy relationship with a man in a time where there are so many women that are just so against men right now. And then how do you do that? I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, depending on the crowd I'm around,
Mm-hmm.
that can reactivate that traitor within to start sabotaging, and then it wakens those loops, and then now you're infected.
So when you feel it coming, when you're being triggered, and the traitor within wants to come out and swoop in, do you do what kind of work do you do to calm her? I don't know if it's a her for you. For me, mine's a her.
Yeah, it's a her for
Okay, to calm her down, to put her in the closet. I don't know, wherever you want to, or in the pocket, or however you.
yeah.
I visualize more like the pocket, but
Yeah, that's a good question. As a grown adult, if I'm even at a high, I will go to my closet because
hmm
for some reason it's
hmm
dark, you close the door, it just feels like there's nothing asks of you in there.
yeah.
You can kind of just come back to yourself.
hmm
For me, when I think of that activation, all I see in the mind is the little me. I see the little abandoned me.
Yeah.
And I think what everybody else sees
hmm
after mask, 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 and then now
hmm
I'm finally starting to show it.
hmm
Now they see the defensive or a reactive person
hmm
who was once the it's okay, I'm
Right.
not going to say anything, I'm going to suppress.
hmm
And now I kind of swung it. My inner teen drives the car.
hmm hmm
And now I'm going to let you know. And
hmm
sometimes the delivery of that can
hmm
sabotage
hmm
things or
Sure.
make it worse.
hmm
Or especially if you're dealing with people who love to instigate and they get off on trying to get that reaction from you.
Well, that's when we talk about like narcissistic. I know we don't want to necessarily throw out that word, but if you're in a relationship with someone with high narcissistic traits, they will, if once they learn that part of you, they will do that on purpose.
Absolutely,
hmm
absolutely. And the more I sit with it, because I feel I have grown up around that a lot,
hmm
where you can't do it. See, look at how you're reacting, right? That'll be
Yeah.
the counter.
Yeah.
So, but then if you're somebody who's always kept the peace,
hmm
even when you do speak up, it's always seen as a how dare you, right?
hmm
How
hmm
rude of you, how abrasive, how whatever they label it, because again,
hmm
they're the victim.
hmm Right.
When you've lived in a dynamic like that, you then realize your role doesn't necessarily matter. Your feelings, what you say, it's always about that person.
hmm
So I've been trained to suppress. I've been trained to swallow it.
hmm
Then you develop a sediment of all that stuff that just stayed
hmm
down there.
Right.
That's when that inner teen, for me, it's the inner teen
Mhm.
comes out and
And does the inner teen stay? Because when my that part of me would come and I would try to protect myself, I would, try to say, hey, wait a second, you shouldn't be in my relationship. I found out you cheated or something. And then they would play their games. And then the trader within would say, believe them. They didn't really do that. You're the one. You're too sensitive. You're too, and that was the other voice. So what would happen to you when you tried to protect yourself? Because you're doing
ah
that when you're that teen, you're like trying to, did something
oh
come in and say, no, go back.
so for me, mine did the opposite because
Okay.
I had been suppressed so much growing
hmm
up. I was
hmm
not about to be suppressed. So then
Okay.
it was like, no, it was like, I gotta fight this injustice. And then I
hmm
realized how exhausting that is because
hmm
if we stripped away all of the egoic noise, at the end of the day, what does me being right about their intentions actually give me?
hmm
It doesn't really give me anything. I don't leave that interaction with anything except feeling righteous in being accurate. But when you've been gaslighted your entire life
hmm
and convinced, because for the longest time, I
Hmm.
think there are many people in my position who have had so much manipulation and emotional harm that we think we're the narcissist, we think we're the manipulator, we think we're the villain, we think I've
Well,
lived my
they tell
entire
you,
oh yeah.
they turn it on you and
Oh
they
yeah.
project onto you.
And it's so, I think that's probably the most grief, is learning that, to kind of hug that little girl inside
Right.
of me
Yeah.
and love her and
No.
remind her that she didn't do anything wrong.
Right. So you have to remind her that just because someone says something, it doesn't make it true. And sadly, as much as you stand up for the truth, because when you're doing that, you're just talking truth, they're not going to get it. They will never understand it. They are delusional. They need to, because of all kinds of reasons, which we can go in or not, but
Yeah.
and and but they need to keep that they need to keep their shame. They need to keep their true inner self hidden from themselves too. So they're not going to see the truth. So it's, as you're, and I've done it. So as you're, screaming and saying what is reality, you're not going to ever get them to see it. And then it's radical acceptance. It's the acceptance and then maybe if you can hold on to the radical acceptance, then maybe you can be at peace with that.
That part's really hard because
Mm-hmm.
I see it with like the clients I work with, I see it with peers, I see it with people in the comments sections.
Mm-hmm.
We are fighting we are fighting the fight of the little us to be heard in the
Right.
present reality.
Yep.
We are trying to get somebody to acknowledge us for this present reality, but
Mm-hmm.
what's really happening is what we think is the present. It's really the familiar past that we need them to own all of.
That's true.
And it's not their debt to pay for
No.
all of that, right?
No.
I found myself in a lot of emotionally abusive relationships,
Mm-hmm.
um, going to very emotionally unavailable partners
Mm-hmm.
to confirm all of those limiting beliefs within myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think before my husband, I was in probably one of the most ugliest relationships I've ever been in. And, um, I'm very hard on myself. I think that's part of my traitor too. It's the perfectifying everything,
Mm-hmm.
where I was so hard on myself. What was I thinking being in that relationship? I was completely financially abused in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It was just ridiculous. And I allowed every moment of it. And that's something I had to be accountable for.
Mm-hmm.
I notice when I work with women who are in these types of relationships, it's so easy to point out the narcissist, the this, the this, the this. I've really had to study narcissism. And the more I look at it from a trauma informed lens and
Mm-hmm.
look at it more as traits,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have exhibited a lot of these, all of us individually at some point or another. I call it egocentric loops. And
Mm-hmm.
when I think about that man that I was with, I think about somebody who was raised by women
Mm-hmm.
who did not have boundaries, who did not
Mm-hmm.
reinforce those boundaries, who
Mm-hmm.
were afraid to rock the boat with this person, who did
Mm-hmm.
not want to enforce anything. That is why women end up dealing with those women, those types of men.
Mm-hmm.
And then these men have no skills for reality.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
instead of focusing on all of what I dealt with and what I tolerated, I reflect on what was going on in me that I even attracted somebody in that emotional vibrated frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't believe that we meet people where we aren't at.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend had just committed suicide that year too. I was in a very bad place.
Right. I'm sorry.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think,
Very vulnerable.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
very vulnerable. And I'm going to tell you, I don't regret that relationship at all. I think that
Mm-hmm.
relationship is how I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I chose myself. I got that person out. There was a glitch in the system.
Mm-hmm. Yay for that
And
glitch.
yes, and I think I needed it. I think all of us have to
Mm-hmm.
go through those moments,
Yeah.
and some of us, we either get lost in the sauce of it and what I call getting stuck in the upside down, or
Mm-hmm.
we truly learn and we're like, no, this isn't the end for us, and we break that cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the traitor is also whatever voice was happening was what kept you in that relationship too. Whatever voice, whatever it was. And also, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, for me it is, maybe not for you, but the messaging and modeling. Was there a part of you that were taught you stay with this type of person because, this is what, because what that was definitely what I was taught. And I was brought up, I had three very strong um, women in my life. My mother, who was an appellate court judge presiding, I mean, she was like, ahead of herself. My grandmother, who, and my aunt, all very accomplished and people. And the messages were, you are to fix everything in the relationship. The woman does that. The woman looks the other way. The woman does whatever she needs to do, pulls up her bootstraps and carries on. And no matter what happens, it's so I don't know if you had messaging also or watched it happen because you through I believe the traitors form through messaging. It's trauma, how to stay safe in your childhood and how you cope, and messaging and modeling.
Absolutely. As a multicultural woman, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my mother is white from England, Yorkshire, England, and then my dad is black and Native American, Muskogee Creek Indian. I was not raised as much around my dad. I wouldn't say he had that much of an influence in my life from the age of 14 on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he wasn't really there. My mother was, and then my mom, she had relationships with women. She married a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you have to consider the time back in the early 2000s, what was going on with that? How safe did she feel
Mm-hmm.
being gay openly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think my mom had any issues with that, but I do think her partners did. So now you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
somebody with internalized shame. You're in it.
Right.
Where's all of that going onto the daughter, me,
Right. Yes,
right?
of course.
So if the world doesn't understand my preferences and who I love,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to automatically assume my daughter doesn't and then displace some of that.
Yeah.
But also too, I mean, she was in a very emotional, very abusive relationships with women, very,
Mm-hmm.
very abusive. Um, and it was interesting how the focus was only on my dad, right? And I'm noticing a pattern too where like,
Mm-hmm.
we love to blame the man, but then we think that just because we switch teams, that the shit doesn't happen over there. Sorry, is that okay if I say bad
Yes, it's
stuff?
okay.
Like, but it happens over there too.
Yeah.
It's a frequency, I truly believe. But then my dad was absent, right? So then what was the messaging I was getting there?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and growing up, I I tend to date Asian men. My husband's
Mm-hmm.
Indian, so
Mm-hmm.
over there in Asia, in that area. But I grew up being never seeing men taking care of their kids, seeing single moms struggle. They were low income, food stamps, all of the
Mm-hmm.
things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was rough.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not want that for myself because I
Mm-hmm.
saw how if this is what happens, this is how kids get treated if you live in
Mm-hmm.
a system like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or stealing food. But I think what was happening was my mother, I watched so much with my mom where I want to say, and I say it gently, like I did lose a lot of respect just because when you choose a relationship over your children, it's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then kids see it.
Mm-hmm.
I work with families today. People are, oh, well, they don't understand. Kids can see it. They can see how
Mm-hmm.
you guys treat each other. They can feel the
Mm-hmm.
energy in the
I
house.
agree.
So the incongruencies and then the my mother saving herself in that, like she would lie on us to save herself from her partner so that way we would get the heat,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So then I'm learning a lot about, okay, what's safety, what's the truth, what do we
Mm-hmm.
do about that, who we throw under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that when I was in those relationships, the fear of not finding anyone better, this is all I'm good enough to get,
Oh, okay.
that
Mm-hmm.
was probably a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, could you imagine? And then I have my husband now.
Yeah.
Like
So much better.
imagine, right?
It's like,
Oh yeah. And it makes me a little emotional when I think about that because to think that what I was tolerating was all I deserved and
right,
what I was getting was crumbs.
right. Well,
That's sad.
it's sad. hug yourself. So because
My
please
brain.
hug it all.
Yeah. There was something that you had said though. Um, and I wonder if this applies because for me, a lot of my wounding obviously is relationships, but a lot of it's friendships.
Hmm.
So I think my traitor shows up a lot with friendships.
Hmm.
I was very pleasing. I wanted everyone else to be happy. I wanted to accommodate them. I also think that growing up when you're living in survival, you're more accommodating to people that can help you get
Hmm.
out of there. So I would hang out with friends a lot when I was living in
Hmm.
places that I didn't feel like emotionally as safe.
Hmm.
And then I would hang out with those friends, and then basically that conditioned them that this is how we were always going to be.
Hmm.
So then when I got into grad school, had to kind of pull back, take some time for myself.
Hmm.
A lot of people didn't like that adjustment.
Interesting. Hmm.
And silent treatment was a huge weapon for me.
Yeah.
Ghosting me was a huge thing I experienced from friends, from women.
Wow.
It was almost like I was going through the same amount of punishment that
Hmm.
I endured at home through women.
Um,
So for me in the workplace, I just felt that life was really trying to develop me into skills, discernment being one of them, being able to differentiate
hmm.
because I'm such a friendly person and sometimes I believe I'm too friendly where there's no radar, there's no guard system, there's
Hmm.
nothing to kind of discern and filter.
But then you have both pieces because you say you're hypervigilant at times, and then the other time you're it's like one.
It's
Yeah.
confusing because
Hmm.
I'm hyper vigilant and I think right now where I'm at
Hmm.
in my life is I'm so guarded.
Okay.
And I think that the scanning of it or the overthinking of it, right? And then not wanting to open up
Hmm.
anymore just because
Hmm.
I've been hurt so much
Hmm.
or I've experienced a lot of people who maybe people make meaning. They see you, they see how you live, or they see your personality. They assume, oh, you must have it made, right? So
Hmm.
many people thought that even as a kid living in my house, I was the one making jokes on the playground. I was the silly, goofy kid. I was the the vibrant, bubbly personality, but I was also the one worried about what was going to happen when I got home, what was going to show up.
Right.
I got food at school, but then I might have to steal it at home.
Yeah.
And then I'd be gaslighted that all that I just said was a lie. So like then I'm
Mhm.
like, am I even making this up? Are my thoughts even real? Is
Oh,
anything
wow.
actually happening? So
Mm.
then do you know how exhausting you get to that? And then you're just
Oh,
like, F
I
it,
can
I'll
only
hang out with my
imagine.
dogs and my plants.
Yeah. They're safe.
Yeah, they're safe. But then are you really healing or are you isolating yourself from
Right. No,
anything that
you're not
triggers?
healing when you're
Yeah,
right. Of course.
right.
But you allowed your, assuming, in your relationship now, you became vulnerable.
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
hypervigilance gone?
Mm. With my husband.
Mhm.
Now, I
I meant
will
with him.
say, when we met, and I don't know how many people talk about this, to be honest, and I wish it was shared more because people believe that when you're in the healthy relationship, it's just easy.
Hmm.
I think the complete opposite. But there's so much noise online. And so people are using that to kind of grade their situation. Well, I don't feel
Which
this
is
and I don't think this.
dangerous.
And
Right.
yeah, and well, what do you, without the noise influencing all
Hmm.
of that? For me and my husband, we're also navigating cultural differences too. Him being
Mm-hmm.
from India, who's actually born in India and then came here.
Hmm.
We're dealing with the military culture. So
Hmm.
I'm facing fear head on.
Hmm.
And my husband, who also has similar parental wounds,
Hmm.
is more of I've faced the unknown because the unknown is what saved him. The
Mm-hmm.
unknown is what's scary to me.
Right.
So then I jump into the unknown with him. We get married, and then I literally move out of California to Alabama. My
Mm-hmm.
entire world shifts.
Mm-hmm.
All that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
All your own shit, all that sediment, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start looping in these narratives that you deem as truth
Mm-hmm. That's
for
right.
you,
Mm-hmm.
but not for the entire household,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. Yeah.
When you have that fear, differentiating it, because right now I do think that society is conditioning a lot of BPD traits, the polarity, the
Mm-hmm.
splitting, the all of the things.
Oh, 100%. Our society
Yes,
is borderline.
absolutely.
Our entire society is
Absolutely,
right
yeah.
now.
We've got narcissism, we've got borderline, we've got all these traits.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think for those of us that come from trauma, now we're so tense to move
Mm-hmm.
outside in the world, let
Mm-hmm.
alone our own relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 2 years of our marriage was rough. It was a lot. My husband was navigating flight school. That was really stressful for him.
Mm-hmm.
um Learning how to be married. I'm learning how to live away from California. I used to say I was never going to marry military. I was never going to leave my
Everything you said.
California.
So you must be really special.
Oh man, yes, I love that man. And I also had a lot of old scripts that
Hmm.
were not relevant to that marriage, that were not, if I didn't let those scripts go, they were going to kill that marriage.
Hmm.
So it'll have moments where it shows up, and I'm so grateful to have a partner willing to go through the mud
Well,
with me.
that's it. I mean, I think that, when I used to do couples therapy, part of it was teaching each other their wounds. And so when you showed up in situations that caused stress or more, it's an understanding for each other that the way people are acting may be an old script, as you said, or a trigger, and has nothing to do with what's going on or each other. But if you come together with understanding, then you can have compassion for each other's wounds and not trigger your own wounds from their wounds, because you trigger the wounds trigger wounds,
Absolutely.
and then you can help each other heal. So it's actually beautiful work if but you have to have two people who are able to be insightful, and two people are like, it's not going to work with the narcissist with high narcissistic traits, but it will work with someone who is capable of being empathetic and capable of insight and capable of hearing, maybe self-criticism or criticism. It has to be, you have to be both be able to work, but it's
Absolutely.
beautiful because if it works, the intimacy, the understanding of each other, the love, that's where love, people, we talk about you can't love enough you can't love a person to change. But in this situation, you can love a person to feel safe so they can change.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I definitely think that's what showed up in my marriage early on in our season. You have to let go of the noise of what everyone else is doing and everybody
Yeah.
else's path. And well, this
Yes.
didn't happen for them in their first year, and this didn't happen.
Hmm.
I had to learn to let that go because I am a military spouse, and I had nobody in my life who was
Hmm.
also a military spouse
Hmm.
who could understand those dynamics.
Hmm.
And also wasn't going to just pull from all the toxicity of military.
Hmm. But you know what? We do this with hospice too. Like, it's very important to understand culture. It's very important to understand each person's culture. But I also, like, I supervise a student, and I always preface by saying, yes, we should understand each other's culture, but that doesn't mean it's the family culture. People have their own
No.
cultures in their families. So it's important to know it just in case there's some familiarities or
Yes,
such, like, and to be respectful of taking off your shoes or whatever it is that you need to be respectful of.
absolutely.
But that doesn't mean it's going to be like that. So you always have to go in. I mean, there are times where I didn't want to read any what the nurses wrote before I walked in to meet a family, because I wanted to go in without, because sometimes they would have their opinions. And I wanted to walk in with just a clean slate so I can just
Absolutely.
go be where they are.
Yes,
And so when you talk about yourself in this, it's your own family. It's your own world, and it's about navigating it. And yes, I do agree, even the best relationships, The first years can be tough because you're getting to know each other and you're getting to work through that stuff. And again, if it's a safe place, you can actually heal together and it's very beautiful. And it takes time. And sometimes things aren't triggered until something happens. So you can be in la la land for the first 5 years and then something like, a deployment that's, I don't know, whatever it is, something triggers it. And then you're like, oh, I didn't know, and you have to, but if you're with someone who isn't going to react in an abusive manner when they're criticized or isn't going to, because they have their own wounds or isn't going to, and they're willing to work with you, then it's very beautiful. But it doesn't mean it's an easy straight,
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Mhm.
Because, I went from relationships where a washer machine can break, and now I'm being cussed out, called
Right.
the C word,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because this person can't handle the washer machine breaking and is calling me, having an adult tantrum, cussing me out. And
Hmm.
then I tolerate that. That should have been,
Right.
right? That's like a past experience.
Hmm.
But then I also see dynamics where the relationship is healthy and it ends up getting in sour territory because the couple hasn't been learning how to navigate their loops.
Hmm. Right. Yep.
They're trying to win each other's loops instead of learning how to work with the loops and
Mhm.
heal the loops.
Right.
And then you create a sour dynamic, and now you're too busy pointing out, oh, well, you're a narcissist, you're doing this. Well,
Yeah.
now we're both engaging in narcissistic traits because now we're
Mhm.
having to defend and protect each other from each other because we
Mhm.
took it sour
Mhm.
because no one was willing to listen.
Mhm.
And so I think that can be very dangerous because I've seen so many healthy relationships die because they're like, oh my God, it was narcissistic, but then didn't
Oh,
realize
yeah.
it didn't start off that way. It ended up that way because two people did the dance. So then how do you face that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you face it when you feel justified? And I truly have to reflect on this too, because when I go back to those seasons early on in our marriage and the protector part, I truly believe I was guided to be in this marriage and
Mm-hmm.
pulled from my comfort zone across the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
So I
Yeah.
had no exit loop.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Interesting.
You had to sit in it
Mm-hmm.
and you had to fix it and you had
Mm-hmm.
to face it in a time where it's so easy to unplug and swipe right and find someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It I also do think that the algorithm, the matrix, is conditioning people to think that the grass is always greener over here, but it's
Oh,
greener where you water it.
yes.
We don't want to water it anymore. We want quick fixes for
But I
everything.
love that it's greener where you water it.
And
It,
that's same for us
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That trader, how
Mm-hmm.
do I know when my trader within is showing? Okay, well, what do I know about myself? I've learned that my nervous system is a runner and a track star and it wants to run at the
Mm-hmm.
slightest moment of fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't run.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to be married because I
Mm-hmm.
thought marriage was a trap and you had to pay to
Mm-hmm.
get out of it and you had to deal with lawyers and I don't like dealing with lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seems like stress. And here I am married and I'm married to military and I left California and I did all
Everything
those
you
things.
said.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to face so much uncertainty.
Right.
That means having to let go of the certainty of the ache we know that our bias keeps on filtering.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep on, sometimes I really have to tell my clients this too. How bad do you want to confirm that belief?
Mm-hmm. Right. Good
Because
point.
you keep on digging, you're going to find it, it's going to get confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we confirm it because we keep on pecking it so much. We vibrate in a lower frequency. We infect everybody else so that way they're in that frequency. And now we're like, see, I was right. You
Mm-hmm.
were going to abandon me. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't actually examine how we might have pushed people
Right.
to the point where now they
To
are out
prove
of
them
their
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
We push them out of what's sustainable for them.
Mm-hmm.
Then we become narcissistic because it's about us. Me. What about me? They had to they had to protect themselves from us
Mm-hmm.
and whatever storm we were creating when we were in our egocentric loop. So yeah, my trauma, my traitor within shows up a lot. I definitely think it's showing up more so as a professional
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to see myself in this positive light when I get the positive feedback,
Mm-hmm.
that is so hard for me to accept
Mm-hmm.
or believe.
Mm-hmm. So how do you absorb it? How do you let it in?
I think I'm doing better at it now. I also think, too, the radical acceptance of knowing that humans are humans.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I cannot accept all of the negatives, because there's lots of those,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're online, that's more so where I'm reflecting when you're online.
Yes.
I cannot pick up all of the positive either because people's feelings change like the weather.
Mm-hmm.
I accept it for what it is, where it is, and I realize that none of that has anything to do with me.
Good. Okay.
Right? So and that part might be confusing sometimes because even when you are getting the positive feedback, we have to think about what positive feedback is because positive feedback right now is leading people off the cliff. That's that validation sometimes. When you get overly validated, you can end up getting high off that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up chasing that. That can be your traitor sabotaging you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think that's where that discernment comes in. I'm very cautious not to get high on the validation.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that could be that part where it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, that could be you just me protecting myself, not wanting to accept it. Cause then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's under the mask, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, what's your goal in the work that you do? I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that part of it is you want to reach people, educate them, and help them be healthier, happier people.
Absolutely.
So if they're getting it and they're responding, that's all they're saying to you is, I
Mhm.
got this, thank you for teaching me, or,
Oh,
you know,
yes, yes. I think helping people in that regard, when I have heard people, I've had tons of messages from people. It brings me to tears sometimes
hmm
when people will say how much my work has helped them because the only reason I'm truly online is to speak what needs to be spoken for
hmm
myself to ingrain that truth because I also have to remind myself.
hmm
So if it's helping someone else heal, my cup runneth over because I'm using this to heal myself.
hmm hmm
So I think that's beautiful.
I agree. It's a beautiful, symbiotic relationship. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I do agree that social media though can be dangerous. And the whole algorithm, which you talk about it as a world, as a society, as the, the
Oh,
bigger
yeah.
picture, of course, but on a
Yes,
smaller picture,
yes.
it can be dangerous.
Oh,
And
yes. My work is all about educating. We can see all of this happening in the micro. So right now, when you go online, there's a lot of macro level noise. You're hearing a lot of macro level noise in politics and Hollywood and whatever's going on in the
Mhm,
media.
mhm,
I think if anyone's read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, he talks about this. And that noise, if we're not careful, and I think about this Pavlovian style, if you think about like conditioning,
mhm,
that can end up becoming the blueprint in which we operate in, which is why we're seeing narcissistic traits and borderline traits in society right now, because there's so much polarity that lives in that arena.
mhm,
If that's the arena and now it's political, so now I feel justified in engaging in my polarity behavior
mhm,
because
mhm,
of moral
mhm,
righteousness.
mhm,
Now I never have to actually inquire anything. I don't have to build discernment. There's no nuance, there's no critical thinking, there's
mhm.
nothing.
Yeah,
That to me is a
I,
crisis,
I
a
agree.
psychological crisis,
Mhm,
because now we are conditioning cognitive shortcuts.
mhm, mhm,
It's the same thing. I could even go on a soapbox where how we are teaching our kids the dumbed down version of how to do things versus letting their brains know how
think
to do it and pick it
and
up.
figure it out.
Right. It's almost, I don't know how to explain it. It's backwards. That's why I call it the upside down.
I love when you said that. I actually love it. It's yeah.
Yeah, I'm very into Stranger Things. There's just so
hmm
much about what you
Oh yeah.
see happening right now in the
Yeah.
world. We're just all stuck
But
in the
I
upside down.
Yeah, but I have said the world is, for me, the world is turned upside down because it
Oh
doesn't make any
yeah,
sense to me anymore. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of it, but it does and it doesn't, but it's
absolutely.
It is.
I'm curious as a clinician
Mm-hmm.
because I've noticed even for myself working around other professionals that the macro level arena is infiltrating the clinical space.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it in my work online where people have tried to bully me into complying with something that I never signed or agreed to. This is where we're now projecting our default reality onto
Mm-hmm.
the world.
Mm-hmm.
And people have a hard time understanding that some people don't live in a political arena. And
Mm-hmm.
if people are choosing to live in a political arena, that to me is a survival adaptation because we don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we feel that if we're aligning because of belonging to the correct side, that we're safe. But then at what cost to being in alignment with your own authenticity and your own
Mm-hmm.
truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to hang out with all people. I want to
Me
be able
too.
to hang out with all people, vote whatever you want, be whoever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's your entire identity, and I think that's where we're
Right. Well,
losing.
this is what's happened. If you say anything that is about the politics to somebody, they take it as you've now insulted them as a human soul. And I know this is a very silly example because it's much more serious, but it reminds me of people who were really into sports and they're if you say something against their team and they're angry at you, they will fight you. Now, of course, this is much more serious than that. But it literally it's the whole being.
Yeah,
And it's very it's cultish to me, but it's the whole
I
but
agree.
yeah,
I agree.
you've attacked their whole being. And and things were very different. Like, so my first husband was different politically. And I was very young. I met him at 15. And talking to him helped me form I was 15 years old, 16, 17, So, but speaking to him, he didn't, if anything, it made me believe what I believed more. But I learned. I was open. He was very smart. And we can learn from each other. But the way the world is now, you can't say anything to someone who you just can't because it's very
No.
personal. And
Yeah.
and then it becomes, and you're not, they think you're attacking their whole being, but you're not. You're just talking about an event
Yourself.
I know. And it's very sad because at a time where we should all be coming together, um, the
I
polarity
think
is
it's,
there.
I honestly don't think that example was silly at all. It is just like sports because people make sports their entire identity the same way they're making politics their entire identity. And if I'm going to be my direct self, I think both of those identities are ways to disassociate from yourself and avoid doing the work. It's easy to go be on the sports and then check out of your marriage, check out of being a parent, check out of doing whatever you need to do,
Hmm.
disassociate into that, disassociate into your own work, your own habits, disassociate into following politics, into following movements.
Hmm.
Everything is fine, moderation, right? But once we start losing that and we start going to the extreme ends, it comes
Hmm.
at the cost of ourself and
Hmm.
being in that alignment with ourself. And then we end up displacing on people who are in alignment with themselves and are not conforming to group norms or because you
Hmm.
said this and I don't want to be the only one in the room that doesn't agree,
Hmm.
right? We have to be the only one in the room sometimes
Right,
and face that
right.
discomfort.
Hmm.
Because if we really think about it, I have to really challenge myself with this all the time. What's going to happen to me if I'm the only one in the room and I'm the only one that disagrees? Is there going to be a sinkhole? Am I going to fall in it? What's going to happen?
Well, I agree with you 100%. But if you have abandonment issues, that could be very scary because if you're the only one in the room, you may lose those people.
Oh, absolutely. And
So,
that right there kind of go to rewind back to like the modeling, the messaging and modeling why we
mhm,
stay in certain relationships, right?
mhm,
Some of us stay there for that very reason. I
yep,
kept friends for some of those very reasons.
mhm,
And then I realized at what cost to my own sanity, because once I realized that playing the belonging game still costed me and it was
mhm,
expensive, I don't think I could play that game anymore.
mhm,
Be- and I have to think about it for the way that I live with other humans. I don't ever want someone to feel the ways I've felt
right,
in my past, right? So
right.
I think that's why I was always an over functioner because I never wanted anyone to feel that way.
Mhm,
You could swing it and go in the extreme end in that direction too.
mhm.
I think where I'm at now is I'm no longer doing any of the extremes. I just accept you
Mhm.
as you are, and I'll
Mhm.
help you through it to get to me. And
Mhm.
I don't want anyone to shrink or silence or say what you need to
Mhm.
say. Speak your
Right.
truth. I want to hear
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, it's almost as similar as being invited into your house during the chaos of laundry and all this stuff and nothing's
Mhm.
clean
Mhm.
versus the pristine time.
Right.
I come as you are where you are.
Mhm.
Speak what you
Right.
need to
I
speak
agree.
because I can pull apart my whatever response or how I felt about it. And I'm noticing that because a lot of people can't do that, they automatically project that on you. And I've seen that in professionals, I've seen that with
Mhm.
therapists, I've seen that with lawyers, I've seen this in the courtroom.
Mhm.
I'm a young person, I look younger than I am. So I get the ageism is real.
Mhm.
People try to belittle you, undermine your intelligence, undermine your professionalism. I don't know how many times I've experienced lawyers that just try to come for me because they don't have anything on the case. So now they're trying to come at like your notes or whatever it is
Mhm.
to kind of deem you uncredible.
Mhm.
This is the world that we live in, and it's all to avoid our accountability, our we're not prepared, or we don't know, or this
Mhm.
case is hard. I don't even know how I'm going to fight it for this woman, but I got to do my
Mhm.
job, right?
Mhm.
This is just how all of that is. And it's confusing, but if we can't bridge the gap that's preventing that's keeping the disconnection, we're all going to continue to be disconnected and we're all going to be fed by the hysteria, and that's going to keep the disconnection. That
Mhm.
worries me because we need humans. We need
Okay.
we need socializing.
Well, so there's somewhat of a loss of humanity right now. People
Yeah,
stop, and I'm going to be careful with this, but people stop caring.
they
Um,
have.
and I don't like you see all these uh, dead children, and people are not like shocked by it anymore, and it scares me. For
You
example, that
know,
was just one example, but it's many things that people are saying. That is just when do we stop? When do people stop caring?
well, I mean, I think about this movie Lion. I don't know if you've
Oh, I
seen
know.
it.
I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
Love Lion.
And it's
Yeah.
so common out there where kids are lost and nobody, and I'm gonna rewind a little bit because when I hear no one's caring, I say it because I see it. And if we're online, it's confirmed. But then if we're really micro level zoomed in, like zoomed in, and I'm on my walk and I'm walking and I'm smiling and I'm waving at people, people do care at that level of the micro when you're out in the world. But
When
I
you
don't
say,
think the algorithm wants you to see that level of care.
mhm.
We're all hiding, we're all in isolation. There is care, but I think many people are afraid. If they see a parent struggling, they want to care, but are you going to snap at me because I'm an independent woman and I don't need help? Like we
Mhm.
are so scared to
Mhm.
intervene and be those humans with each other because we don't want to be offensive, right? We don't want to overstep or overfunction. But at the same time, people don't care.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It we're losing that humanity, but then we need it too. So it's like a double-edged sword. We're just kind of harming ourselves as a collective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds silly, like survival of the fit. I always thought that people who work together survive better.
Yeah.
They don't need, and I just,
I have a question. I hope this isn't squirrel us off topic, but I believe it connects. We were looking at I was watching something about generational wealth and the concept of the families that stick together and they build together and they can grow all of that generational wealth.
mhm.
And people in the comments, and I agree with some of it too. It's hard to do that these days with families because so many families have so many dynamics within
Yeah.
them.
Mhm. Within each one, you're saying.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
there's no trust, there's just no way,
Right.
there's too much
Right.
control.
Right.
We won't let this person have all the power. There's just no way that's
Yeah.
happening.
Right.
And then when you do look, I would love to work with just a family that had all of that
Mhm.
generational wealth and all the family was set up. What does the system look like? Is there
Mhm.
emotional availability? Are the
Mhm.
do the kids feel like that they can go to the parents and talk to them?
Mhm.
Can we, is there autonomy? Is the what's happening there? Or is it based off control and centering one person?
I think it's probably different, but I would think looking at some of the families that I can think of, there was a lot of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot you basically have to do what we want you to do for work,
Right.
or and some people will say, well, this is how it is. Now what, right? Now, let me get my little pens. I don't have two pens. No. Okay, wait. So, and this is the same dynamic, right? Because then they can say this is people from the generational family,
Mm-hmm.
wealth family, right? They can
Mm-hmm.
say, well, this is how it is. And then they could say, well, no, it's not. And then now we're sitting here arguing who's right, who's wrong. And that is just like individuals in a couple. This
Mm-hmm.
person came from this background. This person came from this background. I want the dishes in the sink. I want them on the side of the sink. No,
Right.
you're right. Right. And now we're
Right.
arguing this instead of trying to figure out the compromise. How are we going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
So you come with this, you come with this. How do we balance both? And I think right now, because we're conditioning narcissism, everyone's in their ego. Everyone feels justified, righteous. Independent woman doesn't need a man. You need to this. A man should be this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're too busy policing every single person's every down to the blinking
Mm-hmm.
that we can't solve the actual problem.
Right. That's true.
And then we're stuck in gridlock.
Yep. And then nothing gets done.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck. Right.
And I'm wondering if that is a part of, like, if you would say this, right? I wrote an article called I forget what it's called, ass, our activated survival self. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
has an ass,
Mm-hmm.
and our activated survival selves
Mm-hmm.
show up. I think that this is what you're seeing at a collective level, macro
Mm-hmm.
wide. We're all in our asses right now, just activated.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us
Yeah.
are even getting as much information as we can, weaponizing that intellect
Mm-hmm.
to try to get people,
Mm-hmm.
when really we just want to feel heard.
Mm-hmm. Feel heard and safe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how we I wonder how we get there when the collective is messaging all these models. And I'm wondering too, when I think about your work and the traitor within, and I've been sitting with that a lot, and I can't wait to introduce it to my clients so that way they can start challenging themselves, like, is this your traitor showing up right now?
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the main points I named her, if it's a her, depending on how people identify with it, because it's a tool that has helped. And I've used it with sessions. I've used it for hospice patients to understand their family members that had died and that things weren't worked out yet, to understand their traitor within. So it's not only the individual that's in the office, but it gives them some insight into and forgiveness and compassion toward previous generations or other people they never could work things out with. Look, even someone with
Yeah.
high narcissistic traits has a traitor within.
Oh
It's just,
man.
it's just unfortunately, so as a therapist, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for them. As someone in the relationship, I'm not, I don't have to be there. But as a human
Absolutely.
being, they had wounds. They needed to feel safe. This is what they did.
I think about my mom understanding the traitor within because her traitor was all over the place. I
Mm.
absorbed her traitor,
Yeah.
and it sucks. It wasn't a pleasant experience. I don't have my mother in my life.
Hmm.
I do think that the older you get, the more we need our moms, and it sucks because I would love to have that in my life, but I know that that wouldn't be possible because I wouldn't be able to trust that anymore, right? The trust has been so burned, and she's still with the woman
Hmm.
that allowed my mother to cut me out, to disown me.
I'm
And
sorry.
so that is her traitor within right there. We
Mm-hmm.
stay in situations because of, like, the two, I honestly feel like it's the very first Maslow hierarchy of need. That's the reason
Hmm.
why you're there, and it came
Hmm.
at what cost?
Hmm. Right.
So, and I think that's where I have compassion, but to a certain extent, because sometimes to this day I still have to deal with some of hearing about the narcissistic entitled stories, and it could easily activate me. But again, that was the goal all along, was to activate you, and I'm not there anymore, and I could care
Hmm.
less. It's been, how long has it been? Like probably 15 years now at this point. If
Hmm.
that person's still in that state, that tells you everything about narcissism.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
and that's how I also remind myself whenever I start to think, oh my God, am I the narcissist? Usually they're not ever considering themselves, right?
Correct. Mhm.
But I do have compassion, and I think that compassion helps me stay from getting in that activated lane
Mhm.
because I don't need to go there anymore with her.
And she's not
I
going to get it.
Oh yeah, I
Not gonna,
just don't
you're going to
need
get hurt.
yeah.
She's not going to get
Yeah.
it.
And I will
But
tell
boundary.
you,
Mhm.
sorry, but
No.
there was a moment because when I met my husband, he was not used to no parents.
Mhm.
So for him, he didn't understand.
Mhm.
And I was willing to meet with her. I think it
Mhm.
happened in 2019 when I met with her, and it was years I hadn't seen her. And I honestly, I did it for my husband.
Mhm.
When we had that, my brother showed up. I'm the one that does all the talking because I'm the one that's the emotionally available one,
Mhm.
but I'm the one that's not the avoidant in the family, so it comes at a
Mhm.
cost.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the entire time was denials, and that's not how it was, and that's not how
Mhm.
I see it.
She needs
And
that has to be her narrative. She couldn't to cope to,
yeah,
to otherwise she'd have to understand who she is.
yeah. And I refuse. I refuse to have a relationship
Mhm.
with any person that is demanding I adopt a story that is not true
Sure.
simply because you want me to make you comfortable. I will just exit stage left and I'm completely okay with that.
Mhm.
And I noticed that that's where the traitor within over time I had friendships that wanted this. It was just like I had to be in servitude of other people. And the
Mhm.
minute I was no longer serving what they needed, their story,
Mhm.
their agenda, their this, I would
Right.
have friends that would cheat on their partners or they would do things with the opposite sex. And then you're pissed off at your husband for talking to a woman.
Right.
And then I make a statement and
Hypocr-
now yeah,
Hypocrisy. Yeah.
it's so hypocrisy. And then you're expected to blind loyalty it, right?
Well, because you changed the game. They had you one way, which served their needs,
Yeah.
and then you became more you. And if it was a healthy person, the person would have embraced that. I'm so proud of you becoming you. I'm so proud of you to getting rid of those, what didn't serve you. And
Yeah.
someone is, but it became, like you said, the me that became their me. And
Yeah, when I hear you say it, right, and you say it so caringly and with so much love in your voice,
Mhm.
my traitor within
Mhm.
would feel like suspicious.
Oh, interesting.
And
Mhm.
that's my shit. That's my ass
Mhm.
because that's where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
I have to pause and do discernment because I don't want to lose good connections with people who do care simply because I'm not familiar to genuine women.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think that's where it shows up in my life
Mhm.
currently.
Mhm.
Definitely, for
But
sure.
you can recognize it.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of just
Yeah.
reacting, you understand it.
Yes, yes. I definitely don't let it lead me anymore.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes I've learned to just kind of use the Brene Brown and vulnerability is power and
Mhm.
bring people in and I mean, with people who are clinicians, it's very easy to do that because you get it. But with
Mhm.
people who don't have that as a
Mhm.
background,
Mhm.
sometimes even me bringing that vulnerability in can shock their system.
Mhm.
And so then I'm picking up the undercurrent of that shock, and then I'm thinking, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, am I a burden? Did I burden them? Did I share too much?
Mhm.
Was I too vulnerable?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
And I mean, growing up, I lost my best friend to suicide in 2017. Before she passed away, she was feeling like a burden,
Yeah.
even for her own parents.
Mhm.
And she was far from that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of us, we want depth, but depth is scary because depth scares some people who are not familiar with depth.
Mhm. Right. And some people are scared of emotion,
Yeah.
and and they're scared of, and they avoid, and they're not,
Yeah.
and so they run from it.
And I'm full of emotion. I'm a
Yeah.
Cancer. Like,
Emotion's good, in my opinion, but
yes. Oh, yeah.
but I've been with
Yeah.
people who are or don't like, he didn't like when I expressed feelings.
And I'm not familiar if you have siblings or anything, but I'm the only girl.
Hmm.
So I think that has a huge part to play too, because I'm the only girl. My husband has no sisters, so his mom only raised boys.
Hmm.
So I was the scapegoat, and it was easy to scapegoat me because the boys in one ear and out the other. You're just being dramatic. Why are you acting that way? Like, but it taught me a lot to learn that there's nothing wrong with having those emotions,
Hmm.
especially when you're around people who were learned. Because I also believe that the boys in my family were trained to shrink their emotions too.
Of course, like a lot of boys.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's just fascinating. I love understanding humans and
Hmm.
learning our blueprints and learning our traitors within and learning how it shows up. Even as a professional, I'm far from perfect. I'm far from exempt of have. I forget who it was that said it, but we all have neurosis of
Hmm.
some
Yeah, of
kind, right?
course.
Um, I think learning how to manage the two styles when you get into a relationship is the key
Uh-huh.
for all of it,
Yeah.
instead of just trying to police everything and be
And
the
have
hall monitor.
respect for each other's way
Yeah.
of being, not to change, try
Yeah.
to change somebody. That this is what you're getting. Hopefully, people are honest in the beginning. They're not too scared to
Yeah.
share. But basically, this is what you're getting, and learning to work together without change, unless the person wants to change. But learning to get to meld a life together with mutual respect and
Yeah.
compassion for who they are, and not try to make them something they're not, unless they want to change, and then you can help them. That's different.
Absolutely. You said something about like if they're being honest, because, I've had a lot of people in my past. This is where I think my traitor within, in a way, and you can tell me what you think, is a blessing and a curse
Hmm.
in a way.
Hmm.
You need that person. You need that traitor, even if it's like the part that harms you or you sabotage it.
Hmm.
Uh, because discerning who's being truthful, right? Some
Hmm.
people tell you what you want to hear all you want.
Hmm.
And if the algorithm is conditioning that, right? It's conditioning validation. Then all it takes is someone validating you out there in the world, and you're going to miss all
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
signs. I don't like calling them red flags, but like red flags. You're going to miss them. You're going to bypass them. And that's exactly what I did. I bypassed. You know what
Well,
was so crazy?
this is I think your trader is similar in that way. See how she's covering her eyes.
Yeah.
That's my trader within, because she would,
Yeah.
because you don't see it.
You know what's crazy too is when I met when I was in the abusive relationship before my husband, and I remember seeing this dude, not even someone I was attracted to, and I even said that person looks abusive. I
Mm,
was so icked
interesting.
out, and then I ended up with that person.
Oh,
So that, yeah, right,
after saying that, after
right.
actually,
That tells you a
oh,
lot.
wow.
And it's because of how, first
Mm,
off, I'm scanning you by the way that you look. I felt like, oh, you have an abusive jawline. Like you see, I could just,
mhm,
you look like you're mean and you're abusive. And
mhm,
then when you got in the car, like we're talking, or when we're engaging, uh, completely different, right? And I think people know what to say,
mhm,
right? And so then when I work with people or I see people in the comments and they're just like, they think I'm victim blaming because, well, they're lying, they're this. I had to really challenge myself here, and I have to challenge women because this is where I have a hard time with the women empowerment movement and the I'm an independent woman, I don't need a man. But then we're collapsing when it comes to discernment,
mhm,
because there were tons of signs in this person and I chose to ignore every
mhm.
single one of them. I like basically close, la 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 la, I don't hear you.
Yeah, what people don't need is they don't need an abusive man. You don't need to be abused. You don't need to be mistreated. You need to care, that's what you need. And and the victim blaming is something I understand too, because I was very careful when I talk about the traitor within, because I personally think, and I think you agree, but you can tell me that I want to help people learn about themselves, and that's empowering. I'm also teaching people about narcissists because they need to understand that, because knowledge is your superpower. But it's not victim blaming to say you may need to make some changes within yourself in order to have a healthy relationship, because nothing's going to change. And I came about doing this whole thing because I, who was trained since 1988, kept getting into not only three abusive relationships, but also other ones. Those are three marriages before my healthy, not just healthier husband now. And and I had the knowledge. I mean, we weren't talking about narcissism the same way in those days, but I certainly had the knowledge. I was helping people. I was doing couple work. I was doing, and my traitor within was so strong that even with my, I initially, like you, would say something's wrong here, but then she would cover my eyes and she would make excuses. And you can love the person enough and they'll change. You can help them. You're a therapist. You could da da da. And so, and I was a very trusting person. One of the other things that's interesting too that I noticed, I think anger, assuming is it not a bad thing when you don't hurt people with it, where you don't hurt yourself, because it actually is like pain when you cut yourself. And one of my traitorous aspects, which sounds crazy because we're all talking about anger management and don't da da da, is that I would feel anger for a moment. I may react, like I'll find out someone cheated, and I would say, you know, you cheated and da 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 da. And then my traitor would say, don't be angry. They're going to abandon you. Don't be angry. Suppress your feelings. And then I would be just quiet. And so I would initially do the right thing, which was appropriate. You should be angry when someone cheats on you. I don't want to do should. It was appropriate for me to be angry when so. And then the traitor came in and said, no. So I never held on to anger ever, ever, but anything in my life. Now, I may have bought myself a couple years because I didn't have that angst in my body. Maybe that would be the positive of it, but it also didn't help me leave because I didn't have that peace to give me the passion to get away from it. I just went right back in and didn't help and was not angry. I was angry for a moment. I didn't have eliminate my anger 100%, but we're talking like a moment and it
Yeah.
was gone. But it didn't move me. Without having that anger, it wasn't moving me to do the right thing for myself.
I have like a theory, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, because when we understand our traitor within and we learn about it, when we're learning about why we keep attracting this type of a partner, I've had to really reflect on this too, because I'm all about patterns and I see patterns. When I see women that are constantly like, there's this going on online where it's like, oh, if a woman's miserable, it's because her marriage. So women are finding any way to blame a man, and I
Mhm.
don't see how that empowers us at all. It actually hinders us.
Mhm.
um but let's like zoom out a little bit, because when I'm seeing is a lot of women, they either say they're with a narcissistic man, he doesn't help out, I do everything, I'm this. We end up creating a dynamic where usually the women that are doing everything are women that learned to do it because they watched women before them do everything.
Yes. Uh-huh.
We do everything because he
Mhm.
doesn't do it right.
Mhm.
So you're not going to like it the way he does it anyways. You do everything but won't change and stop doing it, because basically what you want is you want him to do it when you want to do it. And if that doesn't happen, then he's a narcissist, which that seems narcissistic in itself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm wondering if, when you think about, okay, why am I attracting abusive partners? I have to reflect on myself here.
Mhm.
When I was in relationships, and I have to think about this, uh, the man that my husband is compared to the men I used to choose are
Mhm.
very, very different.
Mhm.
The man I'm with now, the old version of me would not be able to have.
Mhm.
And I think that's because
Mhm.
a lot of women, we come from a lot of trauma, that anytime a man is in his masculine, being the leader, being the man, we automatically think it's control or abuse, or you're trying to shrink me, you're trying to this. So sometimes I'm wondering if we're choosing partners because then it gives us control. So even though I'm in that relationship with a partner who was emotionally abusive, I was the one in control because it was my apartment, my car. I bought you this. You needed me,
Mhm.
right? Even though I'm being harmed and being taken advantage of, I still felt like I had control because it
Mhm.
was my apartment.
Mhm.
It was a headache, but then I'm also learning too, with women, it's their rules. They get to dictate everything, they get to control everything. So I'm wondering if, for me,
Mhm.
if I stayed in those relationships, then I can continue holding on to this narrative that was a limiting belief that I'm not good enough, I'm never going to find anybody else. And even though that I thought it was protecting me, it was a traitor within because it was sabotaging me. It was keeping me in these positions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find whatever little bit of a crumb makes me feel so empowered.
Exactly. Whatever the crumb is. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All while using that story to keep me stuck in that when
Mm-hmm.
really I could face the fear
Mm-hmm.
and then get healthy. But healthy comes at a cost. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the one that controls everything. You
Mm-hmm.
have to learn how to compromise, which when I work with couples, especially in El Paso,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just we see a lot where the man works and the woman takes care of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the woman's taking care of everything else and the man's not helping with the kids, the woman gets upset, the woman feels burdened or whatever, stressed out. But then they don't know how to demand, hey, you need to take care of the kids. I'm going to take a break
Mm-hmm.
because we're afraid of asking for what we need because, well, that's not what the blueprint, it doesn't, we don't have that skill in the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
So I've reflected a lot of that too. I've had to really, why would I choose people who didn't love me? Why would I choose people who would treat me poorly? Why would I choose all these people? And I think about that too with my clients. Why are you choosing all these people if that's the very thing you talk about at the girls' brunch? It's just
Mm-hmm.
all the stress.
But do they start? See, with me, they started off being these great guys. It was not, they didn't start off that way. Their true self didn't pop up until about a year.
Right.
So, and there were different reasons for different people. And so, and I would, and personally, my love bombing of choice, I call it, it was be vulnerable, need me to take care of you, not take care of you, but be like emotionally take care of,
Yes.
you have something happened to you in your past. Let me soothe you. That's my, I didn't need, it wasn't stuff. It wasn't whining and dining. It wasn't telling me it was beautiful. It was nothing like that. It was being open in the beginning, being vulnerable, and then making me feel like I can help you. That was my love bombing.
Right.
So, but in the beginning, things, felt fine until I saw who they, or I didn't even see who they were. Like I didn't have full knowledge in my brain who they were, but something was not right. Like they cheated on me or something. And then I would call them out on it, and then they changed. And then they became what my mother was, which was not available emotionally. And then that dance happened. And then I would stay. And there were several situations in my life and I never saw an exit. Like I never understood I could leave. And so much so that in one relationship, I had suicidal ideation 3 times because that was a choice I knew I could do, although I didn't do it, um, as opposed to I'm getting a divorce. Bye, see ya.
Right. Well, I mean, if you, for some people, divorce, leaving is not even an option, or at least they think it's not even an option. Even though we might have the option there, that option for my culture, my belief system, whatever that could be, is just not an option. But then at what cost, right? Like
Right.
we have to have that conversation. So the need to be needed, though,
Mm-hmm.
that I always say our nervous systems are addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nope.
so your nervous system was, oh man, if he needed me emotionally, I would take all the hits. I would deal with it. I would
That's
stay.
right. That's right.
And I think for some women, that's the lifestyle. Oh, we have a great lifestyle. I'm willing to deal with it.
Mhm.
Oh, whatever it is, I have kids. The number one thing is I have kids. So I don't think kids is a reason to stay for, that's not a reason to stay for anything. Um, but when we stay for the kids, and then we end up making that the narrative of why we're staying for the kids,
Mhm.
I think it's easy to say that because I've sat with these kids who've been told that
Mhm.
just for really you're staying for your comfort zone because leaving for the kids means being in unknown territory.
And it's better for the kids. I'll never forget listening to a couple of very good friends of mine who both came from parents who didn't break up until after the kids went to college. They made a choice to keep it together. And both of them, and I particularly think of the male of the couple, absolutely said that but both of them said the same thing. They knew exactly what was going on. I mean, it was horrible to be in their presence of their parents because they were fighting all the time, or they were not fighting, which is sometimes hard too, but you feel the stress.
Oh yeah.
And they prayed almost that they would break up. Like this is, and they didn't, and they believed a lot of their wounds was because they actually stayed together, not because they left.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some of it is society too. Some of it is
Oh
it's not
yeah.
only, why people stay. There's a lot of reasons that go into it, but one is the traitor within, for
You
sure.
know, I'm interested to know what you think about the traitor within, because our needs for something,
Hmm.
so much so that we stay somewhere,
Hmm.
but then we either displace that onto our kids, we externalize that blame, right? Instead of naming the need.
Hmm.
Because if I think about why I stayed so long in a situation that was unhealthy, there was something my nervous system was getting out of that somewhere, right?
Hmm.
We have to name that.
Hmm.
It's all going to be different for each individual.
Hmm.
Um, it, the leaving of it, or the not knowing that you can leave. Would you say, I'm curious also, were you open with with your parents or your mom, or were you?
So my mother, so I did try to leave them all, and they said, and my mother told me, no, I can't leave. So they were, not only was it what my mother stayed with my father who cheated constantly.
Wow.
So the messaging and modeling was there. I was told
Absolutely.
that you stay. So there's no question where it came from. I
Oh,
was
and then your
told,
mom is like a prestigious
yeah,
up
the
there.
outside was very different than the inside, what was going on behind closed doors. When it came to my father, he could drink, he could cheat, he could do everything, and she never left. And she carried on. I mean, I remember being little and hearing them fighting like 10 years old, and my mother just like came home after work, got dressed, they fought about this cheating experience. And my mother went outside and said, I'm making chicken soup for dinner and let's go plant roses. So that's what I grew up with. So it's not
Wow.
there's no, to me, it's very obvious why
Oh,
I
yeah,
to stay. And
absolutely.
on top of that, I tried to leave each one, went to them for help, and they said, no, you're married, you have kids, you can't go. So when I finally did,
Oh, wow. So when you did leave, did they treat you differently?
when I did leave, it was different for each one. When I did leave the first one, they were angry at him for their own reasons, having nothing to do with me, and they accepted it. Um, the second time, that person left, but that's after many infidelities and um, a million things going on. And the third, I left, but I left at a time where my family was dying. It wasn't the same dynamic.
I call that going against the grain, when you have to do something that literally people above you are telling you that we don't do.
Mhm.
Um, I have I'm similar with my mother-in-law in that sense, in terms of her very orthodox ways of believing what women are. She's very much, we suppress ourselves and
Mhm. The same idea.
allow this, basically kind of what you grew
Yeah,
up with your
sure.
mom. And I'm very much an outspoken woman, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between we're healing versus I'm trying to change my your
Hmm.
son. So I think it's easy, but there's also a lot of communal narcissism in the culture
Hmm.
too. And I'm learning to save my energy, because some people are going there. Sometimes it's not even just about committed to misunderstanding you. There are those malignant people who just argue with you even though they know they're wrong, and they do it just to do it, to piss you
Hmm.
off. Then
Hmm.
there are the people, and I think that this is probably a big majority of us that are out here, who purely have adapted into some of these survival skills, or we're in these egocentric loops, or we're like my mother-in-law and we only know the village life and the
Hmm.
culture of that, and we are very ingrained in that.
Hmm.
Having compassion in that area is a little bit easier, but it still doesn't make it doesn't make this work easy at all. You still have to face
Yeah,
it, you still have to face yourself,
yeah,
you still have to do exactly what you did 3 times
yeah. And
against the
more
grain
on
with
top
no
of it.
support.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I don't, again, I don't have, like you said, I don't have regrets. I mean, I wish I wasn't in so much pain. I wish it was more like, I wish I didn't stay so long, because it was a long time of being in a lot of pain. But um, right now, I don't, it doesn't phase me. It phases it now. It's a teaching. Now I can help use it to help others.